Yeah, it's Perch. It's another video by Perch. Here it is. that that new catchphrase isn't going to catch on, I don't think. Anyway, here's a question here. And one of the nice things about comic fans, I think, that goes underappreciated by companies. And keep in mind, for a long time, the publishers sort of rejected cosplay. Now, if you've been in the heart of kind of the comic industry and going to comic conventions and everything else, that may sound weird to you, because cosplay has been firmly embraced by the companies over the last, I don't know, 20 years or so. But before that, there was this time, especially Marvel, where like there was a period, if you dressed up like the characters, somebody, they might just get pissy at you. And I remember when Disney bought Marvel, there was this renewed fear that Disney would suddenly start cracking down on people who dressed up like the characters, and that could be a problem. But in general, one of the great parts about it is how the fan base will readily come up with ideas, is always thinking about how to grow comics, how to, stories they want to be told, everything else, which is a bit why it's a shame that there's this current dynamic and this multi-pronged battle around comics and ideas that people have, and toxic fans who are, want things their way. How dare them? And these fans over here want something more woke. These fans over here want something less woke, and I just on and on it goes. And it's a shame, because at its heart, there are very few businesses, very few industries where people actually, try and think of ideas on how to sell comics, on how to make your product stronger. That's weird. The fancy nails and spa salons do not have people coming up with ideas on how to do nails better on a regular basis. I'm staring at a store called Fancy Nails and Spa. That's why I thought. I'm looking down at, like, what other things could I have picked here? Here's Title Max Title Loans. Here's Armed Forces Career Center. Here's Music and Arts. I don't know what I'm doing in this town right at the moment. Here's a hearing aids place. So I think I probably picked the right thing by Nails and Spa. Although I suppose the Armed Forces Career Center could have been kind of interesting. People kind of cosplaying the military before they actually join the military and coming up with like places to go shoot. That could be fun. Anyway, along those lines, here's an idea, right? It says, I've been watching your channel for a while. It's okay. You don't have to apologize. Yeah. And you have a bad habit of sneering at the idea of people picking up comics for the boobs. I don't know if I sneer at that. I mean, I like a good set of boobs as much as the next guy. So don't, Besides, there's when somebody reviewed this channel and said I was lecherous and an alcoholic.
Or so the Germans would have us believe.
The alcoholism doesn't work for boobs, but the lechery certainly does. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with boobs. I do think that there was a period in the 90s where the boobs stopped looking like boobs and started looking like just bizarre. I don't know, just very bizarre. It no longer looked remotely like boobs. But nothing wrong. If you want a comic with a good set of boobs, Empowered, that comic has plenty of good boobs. All right, that's enough about boobs. So stories and characters are important, says the mail. I suggest, as an example, suppose there is a big fight scene in Fantastic Four, and Sue Storm loses her top. She just happens to lock eyes with Ben Grimm, the only person in sight. There's an awkward pause before she turns herself invisible. Well, that happened, says Ben, going back to punching things. The scene is adorable. It can show the stuff the characters are made of. I mean, literally. Anyway, sorry. It can show the audience how such an event should be dealt with, or how it could go wrong if handled badly. Sue could overreact, and this could negatively affect the relationship between Ben and Richard, or everyone could be mature adults and show us how it should be done. These things can be done well, and think of the collector value. Hugs and kisses. That'd be a cute moment. We don't have a lot of those cute moments in comics. One of the things that I think has happened is a lot of comic writers and publishers are reluctant to put in those kinds of moments in the comics because they make the female characters look vulnerable. And if the female character looks vulnerable, then some jackass on Twitter is going to talk about how the writer's misogynist, and then there's going to be like, cancel this person. And it's going to be a mess. The vulnerability for Sue Storm would have to be like, oh my God, I'm addicted to chocolate. There's too much chocolate. I'm having chocolate. That's got to be, however, the vulnerability has to be something that's like neatly packaged into, say, Sex in the City or something. It can't be a funny little bit like that. But you do raise an interesting point. So I know this probably wasn't the crux of your mail, but why don't more of the superhero costumes get shredded? I mean, again, I mentioned empowered earlier. One of the main core tenets of that comic book is that the costumes always getting destroyed in some fashion. And so the girl's like wandering around with like half of her body hanging out, and it's annoying, right? And I understand the Reed Richards unstable molecules as superhero costumes are super great and everything else like that, but you do think, I mean, like, hell, Captain Marvel's like flying into suns, and she's going in through space and smacking asteroid fields around, everything else. I mean, if the costumes were strong enough, more powerful enough to with basically the entire wrecking crew can just wail on you for an hour, and your costume's going to be fine. So why can't they take the material from that costume and create some like bubble around New York City, right? And then, or hell, like Reed Richards is a monster because he could be basically making everybody's clothing, just regular civilian suits out of these, this material, and it would defend them against so many supervillain attacks and all kinds of things. I mean, that would be thinking ahead. Iron Man, Reed Richards, whatever it happens to be, they could basically outfit the civilian population with clothes that that would prevent any kind of harm. I mean, why aren't they doing this? Reed just wants everybody to die. I think that's what's going on. But anyway, why? Clearly costumes do get ripped and torn and everything else when the story calls for it, or when the artist is bored and just decides to draw that kind of stuff in there. But why is it that why don't we see characters like Captain Marvel fly off into space, punch a bunch of stuff around? I mean, when she flies into a star, she should fly out the other end just completely buck ass naked because the clothing has been burned off by the power of a star. I why don't we have more of those moments? I don't know. It would increase collector value. You're right. I I I'm joking. Clothing is one of those things. If you've gone into a comic shop for any length of time, this is one of those arguments. And maybe, and I'm sure there'd be somebody on Twitter who would tell me so. Maybe this is one of the reasons why people say the comic book conversations are so uncomfortable for people. But I don't know. I had many group of people debating, like, how in the hell did the Hulk's pants stretch? When he's Bruce Banner, he's wandering around. He does not have giant ass pants. And if Reed Richards is making regular size slacks for Bruce Banner, then again, why doesn't he make those clothes for everybody and just save a lot of civilian lives? I mean, there would be no war in this world because this clothing could repel a bullet. Like if you want to make the Punisher useless as a character, just give everybody. I mean, just get this clothing out there, and Punisher would go in there with guns and shoot everybody. I mean, if a costume doesn't get ripped, torn, or scratched with the absorbing man smacking that giant ball into your gut, then this clothes could stop a bullet. That's all I'm saying. Uh, anyway, these conversations are going on in the comic store all the time, and the classic one was, what gives with Bruce Banner's pants? They're not just going to stretch. He didn't buy like the Docker stretchy waist pants that when he turns into the Hulk, it just automatically expands with him. So technically, when he turns into the Hulk, it would just shred all of his clothing. He'd be just running around, raging out with that giant green Hulk dong swinging around everywhere. That would be what would happen. I mean, right? That's how it goes. But anyway, these conversations were usually favorites of female customers in my shop. They would come in, they were fascinated by this concept. I mean, everybody was. Eventually, every comic store argument has to have at least what the hell is going on with the clothing and how did the Hulk's pants stay on, part of the discussion every single time. But anyway, yeah, it would be cute if something like that would happen. But clearly, Sue Storm's top is completely invincible to any harm. Like Doctor Doom has taken whatever kind of laser ray things he's got in his Doom gauntlets, and he's roasted Johnny and the Thing and Sue Storm and the Thing. Like he clobbers his way right into action. Uh, Throwing his whole body into something, getting laser beams bursting. You see the Silver Surfer like use the power cosmic and just roast Ben Grimm, and somehow his pants are fine. You don't see the Thing's thing. It just he's fine. Those pants are invulnerable to any harm. If only Gwen Stacy had been wearing Reed Richard clothing when she was tossed off that bridge, Spider-Man could be like, screw it, just let her fall. She'll be fine. She'll bounce. Anyway, yeah, I've gone very, very far afield with what the original question was, but those moments are cute, and there's nothing wrong with some boobs in comics. Why not? What's wrong with that? Come on, it's American like apple pie. Cherry pie. I don't. You know what? I'm going to get myself into trouble if I keep going. So, what about you? I don't. What do you do with this video? Comment on whatever aspect you like. Would those cute moments be kind of nice to see in comics? What gives with these clothes? Is Reed Richards a monster for not loaning out some of this stuff to the civilian population? Are the clothing in the Marvel universe or the DC universe the most powerful character? More powerful than anything else? I mean, look, Ben Grimm's pants versus the Silver Surfer. The pants are winning. The pants are going to win that fight. That's all I'm saying. Thanks for listening.